The justice system is supposed to protect the innocent and punish the guilty. But what happens when the system itself is flawed? Brittany Holberg was sentenced to death in 1998 for the brutal murder of an elderly man in Texas. For 27 years, she sat on death row awaiting execution. But now, shocking new evidence has overturned her conviction. Today we break down the details of this case, the crime, the trial, and the hidden evidence, and how it all led to one of the most significant reversals in recent death penalty history. Welcome to Crime Science. On November 13, 1996, 80-year-old A.B. Towery Sr. was found dead in his Amarillo, Texas apartment. His body was discovered with multiple stab wounds, blunt force injuries, and severe trauma. Prosecutors later claimed that 23-year-old Brittany Holberg was responsible for the attack, describing it as a robbery gone wrong. Towery had been stabbed nearly 60 times with various objects, including a paring knife, a butcher knife, and a fork. A lamp pole was found lodged down his throat. The crime scene was gruesome, suggesting a frenzied and violent struggle. Investigators quickly identified Holberg as a suspect. She was a known sex worker and drug user who had been staying in motels around the area. According to initial reports, she had visited Towery's apartment that day, allegedly to exchange sex for money or drugs. Holberg, however, told a different story. She claimed that Towery had invited her in, but then attacked her. She said she acted in self-defense and fled the scene in a panic. Holberg was arrested in June of 1997 in Tennessee after being on the run for several months. When police took her into custody, she maintained that Towery had tried to assault her and that she had only fought back to protect herself. Investigators, however, painted a completely different picture. They argued that Holberg had planned to rob Towery, and when he resisted, she killed him. Witnesses claimed that she was seen covered in blood after the incident, and her drug addiction was used to suggest that she was desperate enough to commit such a violent act. The prosecution believed that the level of violence involved in Towery's murder indicated rage, not self-defense. This, they argued, pointed to an intentional killing rather than a struggle for survival. Holberg's trial began in 1998. Prosecutors built their case around physical evidence, witness testimony, and forensic analysis. The most damning evidence against her included bloodstains found on Holberg's clothing and items that allegedly belonged to her. Testimony from a forensic expert who claimed that the injuries on Towery's body suggested an attack rather than a defensive struggle. And statements from multiple witnesses who described Holberg as violent and erratic in the days following the murder. One of the key witnesses was Vicki Marie Kirkpatrick, a woman who had been incarcerated with Holberg. Kirkpatrick claimed that Holberg had confessed to the murder while in jail, saying she killed Towery for money. The defense argued that Kirkpatrick had a history of lying and was not a reliable witness. They also maintained that Holberg had no prior record of extreme violence, and that the crime scene indicated a chaotic struggle rather than premeditated murder. Despite the defense's best efforts, the jury found Holberg guilty of capital murder. She was sentenced to death and sent to death row at Mountain View Unit in Texas. For the next 2 decades, Holberg's attorneys fought to overturn her conviction. They argued that her trial had been unfair due to prosecutor misconduct and unreliable testimony. One of the most critical issues in the appeal process was the credibility of Vicki Marie Kirkpatrick, the jailhouse informant. It was later revealed that Kirkpatrick had been acting as a paid informant for the prosecution. This fact had not been disclosed to the defense during the trial, violating the Brady Doctrine, which requires prosecutors to turn over all exculpatory evidence to the defense. The Brady Doctrine is meant to ensure fairness in criminal trials. When prosecutors withhold evidence that could affect the outcome, it undermines the entire judicial process. In Holberg's case, the fact that Kirkpatrick was a paid informant significantly damaged the integrity of her conviction. Additionally, Holberg's defense team presented new forensic evidence that challenged the original interpretation of the crime scene. Experts argued that Towery's injuries could have been consistent with a struggle rather than a planned attack. The defense also pointed out inconsistencies in witness testimonies and flaws in the original investigation, suggesting that detectives had been too quick to label Holberg as the sole suspect without exploring other possibilities. After years of legal battles, a federal appeals court ruled in 2024 that Holberg's conviction should be overturned due to prosecutorial misconduct. The court found that the failure to disclose Kirkpatrick's status as a paid informant had deprived Holberg of a fair trial. Judge Patrick E. Higginbottom, who oversaw the decision, emphasized the gravity of the situation. He stated, 27 years on death row is a reality dimming the light that ought to attend proceedings where a life is at stake. With this ruling, Holberg's death sentence was vacated, and she was released from prison after spending nearly 3 decades behind bars. The Brittany Holberg case raises serious concerns about the criminal justice system, particularly in cases involving the death penalty. Some of the key takeaways include the reliability of jailhouse informants who receive benefits for testifying. They have a strong incentive to lie. The use of such testimony without full disclosure can lead to wrongful convictions. And then there's the prosecutorial misconduct. The failure to disclose crucial evidence can result in an unfair trial, as in Holberg's case, which demonstrates how withholding information can directly impact the outcome of the case. Then there's the length of time that's spent on death row. Spending nearly 3 decades on death row is a punishment in itself. Holberg's case is part of a broader conversation about whether the death penalty is applied fairly and humanely. And of course, there's the flaws in forensic evidence. Advancements in forensic science have led to numerous wrongful convictions being overturned. Holberg's defense used modern forensic analysis to challenge the prosecution's original claims. While some believe that Holberg's original conviction was justified, others argue that the case is a reminder of how easy it is for the system to fail. As of 2025, Holberg is adjusting to life outside of prison. Having been incarcerated since she was 23, she now faces many challenges of reintegrating into a world that has changed so significantly since 1997. Her legal team continues to advocate for justice reform, using her case as an example of why transparency and fairness are essential in capital punishment cases. The Brittany Holberg case is a harsh reality check about the flaws in the criminal justice system. A woman sentenced to die was released after 27 years, not because new DNA evidence cleared her, but because the prosecution withheld key information that could have changed the outcome of her trial. Whether or not Holberg was guilty of murder, the fact remains, her trial was not fair. Cases like this force us to question how many others may be sitting on death row due to similar injustices. If you found this breakdown informative, make sure to like, subscribe, and let us know in the comments. What do you think about this case? Was justice served? This is Crime Science, bringing you the facts behind the most shocking cases. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.